Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome in. This is FST. It's Fantasy Sports Today. My name's Matt. His name is Joe. Sam Y, the sports guy behind the glass, along with TD Jake on the ones and twos. We just got the party started, so welcome in. Look, this is the only place you need to be right now. If you want to dominate your season long, your DFS, your straight up wagering, we've got you covered. I want to bring in Joey P, the author of the Fantasy Black Book, Joe Pisapia. Join me, my friend, as everyone out there in the world on @SportsGrid and @SportsGrid TV start to get fired up. We're all getting ready for our drafts. But you, being the author of the Fantasy Black Book, it's changed the way an entire generation has drafted. So I want to get into some news, but I first want to get your thoughts for this time of year. What should people be doing?
Oh, this is a tough time of year because we see glimpses of football, glimpses of greatness. We also see concerns about injuries. Should we be concerned? Should we be terrified? I think that's the tough part. And in an era where we get so much information all the time, I'd love to have a little bit more information about Matthew Stafford. I'd love to have a little bit more information about Joe Mixon, about Najee Harris. Like, there's some guys I'd like to have a little bit of information more about, like, what's going on with Matthew Stafford in that back. Is he practicing? Is he working out? Is he not? Does he need 12 shots and acupuncture just to get up in the morning? I don't know these things. And I think, you know what, Matt, after all these years, I think we deserve to know. I think we as a public deserve to know the truth, damn it, especially after experiencing the Christian McCaffrey nonsense of 2024. It was quite a debacle in terms of, it's his Achilles, it's his calf, everything's going to be fine. And then we all know how 2024 went. So this time of year is difficult because you're seeing, like I said, pieces on the field that look good, pieces that don't look good. But again, they're new pieces. So trying to disseminate the good from the bad and the ugly is very difficult. Hopefully we can do that for you on the show today.
Yes. Absolutely. I believe you once called preseason baseball like the illusions of April. Let's call this the illusions of August, to borrow your term. All right. So let's get into some things that we do know, not illusions. We're talking about which teams are going to sign their players and how much are they going to spend. We always say follow the money. So let's start there. A team that is, in my opinion, predicted to be a top offense. The Buffalo Bills. They've locked up a player. It's a 4-year deal. Let's talk about what it means, and then we can move on to some of the other headlines.
Yeah, the Buffalo Bills, subject of the Hard Knocks. I watched the first episode. Boy, what a lovely bunch of people. Everyone's giving out ice cream. It's just, gee willy, good gosh, everything is so swell over there in Buffalo, isn't it? But yes, it's all swell for James Cook, who got paid 4 years, $48 million extension. And we were talking before the show, too, about stacks. And now people talk about, who do you want to pair this quarterback with, wide receiver-wise? Sometimes stacking an offense is also a quarterback and a running back. And to me, between Josh Allen throwing the football for touchdowns, rushing the football for touchdowns, and handing off to James Cook for touchdowns, that's the way you control the offense in Buffalo, is with James Cook. And he's still being undervalued. A lot of the pitfalls of Kyren Williams 2 years ago, people saying he's too efficient, he'll never repeat that touchdown total. Well, guess what? He did last year, and everybody was scrambling to come up with the excuses of why. So, yeah, is it tough for a guy to be that efficient with touchdowns? It is, except for the fact this is the way the offense operates, and they're going to put themselves in situations to score because they're the Buffalo Bills and they have Josh Allen. But it's really difficult with Josh Allen right now. It's more like Drew Brees trying to figure out, well, who's the guy today? Who's the guy this week? He's become a quarterback that looks for the open guy and hands the ball off to James Cook. Those are two things you can count on, and now you can count on James Cook being part of the Buffalo Bills. Next is the Rashee Rice drama with the suspension. Now, we don't know when, we don't know how much. Again, all of this floating around the ether is really driving me crazy. Apparently, the NFL said 10 games, and they were like, whoa, what are you talking about? That's a lot of games for something that, really have already been dropped and all those issues. They're trying to negotiate it. My guess is going to go to some kind of arbitration, and it'll probably end up with somewhere between 4 to 6. But even so, that's going to hurt his draft stock, I think. And for me, he's a hard pass unless I'm getting a massive discount. Chris Godwin also going at a discount, but he's likely to start the year on the PUP list. That's big news. Not just for Godwin and the Buccaneers and for Baker Mayfield, but also for Emeka Egbuka. That's a wide receiver rookie we've talked about quite a bit. I think there was a reason why they took the best player on the board and happened to be a wide receiver. And I think they knew that Chris Godwin might not be ready for the start of the season. And Egbuka is getting such a strong camp buzz. Now, I don't know where you're at, but he's on my radar, Matt. Have you found yourself starting to get more and more comfortable with drafting Egbuka a little bit ahead of his ADP?
Yeah, I do a show with you. How can I not? It's my environment. But Also, when I look on the depth chart, I'm looking for names. Obviously, everyone's going to do that's familiar. Jalen McMillan is still someone that's there. But yeah, guys like Godwin and Evans, they don't really tickle my fancy. And then, like you said, Ibuka comes, and I'm like, you know what? I like Mayfield. I like the team overall. I like Bucky Irving. Why not, in the same breath of what we were talking about with Buffalo, why not do the same thing here with Tampa? So absolutely.
Yeah, and of course, the C in Cleveland stands for character. Quinshon Judkins was actually
That's what you came up with. That's what you.
that's the
Good.
one. The C in Cleveland stands for character. Quinshon Judkins apparently will not be facing any sort of charges. However, the NFL will be doing its own investigation. We love the NFL investigations, right? They're going to do their own. They also signed Isaiah Bond over the weekend, staying with the C in character theme. So way to go, Cleveland. Way to go. Let's get to the injuries, Matt, because I don't think anything good can come of me continuing to talk to the Cleveland Browns organization.
The show is all about segues. If you guys out there, and you just imagine there's a whole production team that is laughing in our ears, and I don't know if it's good laughter or bad. So I don't know if we're going to be here on the break, but Joe, just keep going because my gosh, you're funny.
Hey, shoot your shot when you got it. Injuries. Yes. Matthew Stafford, again, the great unknown. He's getting epidural shots. So either he's going to play football or he's going to have a baby. One of those two things are going to happen soon. So we'll figure out which one is which. I hope it's the playing football one. Either way, it's going to be interesting. But yeah, look, I think it's getting more and more concerning the longer it goes. If he is not available for the start of the season, the pivot will be Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, that would be tough. That's a tough one, I think, to downgrade to. Jimmy Garoppolo did take a team to the Super Bowl. Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
So
there
in terms
are
of system quarterbacks
in the league, that's a good little bit there. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it could be worse. It could be better, but it could be Matthew Stafford. That's what we'd like. But it is something to start to consider in your super flex leagues too when you're looking at a second quarterback. I've seen Matthew Stafford's stock drop dramatically. So either you're going to get a huge discount and it's going to be a huge win, or it's going to be an unmitigated disaster where he doesn't play for chunks of the season or has an injury at some point because he takes a big hit. So it's massive concern. Now, if you're in a super flex league and it's got, let's say, Michael Penix and Matthew Stafford on the board, I'll take Penix at this point. I just think that's where I'd want to go, the healthier guy who's on the field. What about you, Matt?
I hear you on that, but I've been high on Devontae Adams, so this conversation is really something that intrigues me. But between those two, I think I had already taken my quarterback, but I guess I would like Atlanta's potential for offense if Stafford is legitimately hurt. But what if I wanted to pivot to another team and another quarterback? Is there anyone else out there?
Well, Shedeur Sanders, some good results in preseason so far, but he's dealing with an oblique issue now. Dylan Gabriel's hurt. Joe Flacco is 472 years old, and Kenny Pickett also injured. So, again, this Cleveland Browns just, nailing that offseason, just crushing life. When you have 5 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. Justin Jefferson dealing with a hamstring issue, but they say he's progressing. It seems like they're just keeping him in bubble wrap. I would not panic. I've seen his draft stock slip in the last week. If you're drafting today, take advantage of it. And then Najee Harris is participating in drills, but again, a lot of lack of clarity. I just don't understand, Matt, if it's a superficial eye issue.
Right.
And what is the concern? Like if it's the actual eye.
Okay, so what does superficial mean? Is it the skin? No, superficial would be the skin around the eye. So maybe movement and sweat would be something. Maybe he had some plastic surgery done for something cosmetic, more aesthetic than it is structural. Question mark?
That's really, see, this is what happens when you do a show with somebody who's married to somebody in the medical field. This is why I lean on Matt Striker. Perhaps we can get her on in season to give us some answers to some things. But look, those are some injuries and some issues and some news floating around the league. And we're going to turn that into cash. When we come back, we're going to talk about the quarterbacks with a little fantasy over-under where we take the projections and we take the lines that are set for the passing yards, and we're going to go over or under. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.
The Mets are a game and a half up in the wild card race from the Cincinnati Reds. But the Cincinnati Reds are 60 to, not 16 to 1, Joe, 60-1 to win the pennant here. But I do find myself looking at the New York Mets saying, there's too much talent on that team, and we know how things work out, even with the Philadelphia Phillies in the playoffs last year. Hey, we're a good baseball team. Mets get hot at the end of the year. Mets knock the Phillies out of the playoffs. We've seen that happen before.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Jalen Lane, fourth-round receiver from Virginia Tech, who's a dynamic slot receiver. Run after the catch. He's had a phenomenal camp. Really great offseason. He is really gifted, and obviously, with McLaurin not practicing, he's getting a lot more of a look.
Right.
Now, the problem is, without McLaurin, they're not very deep at the outside receiver position. But Jalen Lane is a stud talent. I'm telling you, this kid should have gone higher.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
He's going to regress a little potentially in touchdowns, but his role's not going to change. There's no other superstar on this team besides Josh Allen. So to me, James Cook, they need James Cook. If the Buffalo Bills are going to repeat in that division again, they need him to be that guy in the offense because there isn't another star around Josh Allen. So James Cook is as close as it gets. I'm sorry. It's not Khalil Shakir. It doesn't look like it's ever going to be Keon Coleman or Dalton Kincaid.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt Striker and Joe Pisapia with you here, part of a great lineup of SportsGrid programming. Remember, it's smarter to be on SportsGrid, at SportsGrid TV. Those are our social media handles. We want to hear from you, and I know you want to talk to us. Joe, let's make people some money so at least they're nice to us. Let's do FST Fantasy over under here. We're going to give you some players, give you some situations. Let's see if it goes over or under. Let's start with a team that has a good offensive line. Although there is an injury, they'd have time to heal it or time to fill it. It would be a better use of my words here. The Chargers. Now, most people will point to the offensive coordinator's penchant for a running offense, but Justin Herbert is the topic here. Regular season passing yards over under 3650 and a half. Minus 114. If memory serves correct, he did eclipse this last season. So take it away.
He did. 3870 was the number from last year in a new offense for the first time. And that was without having Keenan Allen, who's returned, or Trey Harris, who just got drafted. Now, Quentin Johnson got hurt. He's going to be in concussion protocol for a while, most likely. But I don't get this number. To me, this makes no sense. Justin Herbert's a guy that came in as a rookie and set the rookie passing yard leadership of all time. And then the next year followed it up with a 5,000-yard season. Now, I understand those are different offenses with different head coaches and different offensive coordinators. However, it's still Justin Herbert. I think you got to give him a pass in that first year in a new offense. And yes, it is more run heavy. But the other thing that it lacked last year was the guys that had yards after the catch, right? When you take Austin Eckler out of this offense, all of a sudden it's a little different. Now you're adding Amari Hampton, who's a guy you can dump the ball off to and get yards after the catch. And that pads Justin Herbert's stats. So do the other names that I just mentioned, not to mention the emergence of Ladd McConkey last year as a rookie. So to me, this is a smash on the over. I think Justin Herbert can get back to QB1 territory. Last year, he was QB12, right on that cusp, right? And that was with all of those new things and all of that lacking of the yards after catch, not to mention all of the drops of Quentin Johnson last season. So Justin Herbert's in a really good spot here. I love him as a QB2 in Superflex, or even as a late QB in the last round of your single quarterback draft. That's basically kind of where you can get him, or Dak Prescott, somewhere in that grouping. But to me, Herbert is a smash on this one. I think he's going to go over 4,000 yards, and I think it's going to surprise people. And I think the Chargers are going to contend for this division. I really do. I think the Denver Broncos defense is really good. I think the Chargers overall really good. Rashawn Slater being out for the year hurts. But they do have Joe Alt, who's moving from right tackle to left tackle, who played left tackle in college. So it's not as bad of a situation as maybe some people might have thought. So to me, this is an over for Herbert.
All right, I like it. Let's continue with getting into the mind of Joe Pisapia. Talking Saquon Barkley, I think we can all agree the Eagles probably have the most potent offense. They won the Super Bowl, right? So here we go. Regular season rushing yards, the over-under is 1,400 and a half. Obviously eclipsed this last season, the number at minus 114. This is more about, Joe, your thoughts on Barkley having a deep regression this year, correct?
It is, and it's not because I want it to happen. I just want to, make everybody understand. It's not because I'm willing it to happen. It's just sometimes the data is so strong that you have to just pay attention to it. And I don't think it's just a fade in fantasy. Like if I have a first round pick, I'm just not spending it on Saquon Barkley in the first 10 picks. If he's there at the turn or somewhere on there, I consider it. Same with Christian McCaffrey. He's had injuries before. He's coming off a season of 436 combined carries over the postseason, and the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
Then on top of that, we also caught the football a ton, right? So we're in a well over 500 in terms of touches. And if you go back and you look at the context over the last 25 years, DeMarco Murray, Eddie George, Shaun Alexander, by the way, who was 2005 MVP, Larry Johnson, Jamal Lewis, Corey Dillon, Edgerrin James, Curtis Martin, Arian Foster, Amon Green, Jamal Lewis a second time. None of those guys, after 400 carries, finishes RB1s the next year. Now, that's a lot. So it's really hard to find in this modern day of the NFL. This is not Walter Payton. This is not Earl Campbell, right? The game has changed quite a bit. So the fact that you're getting 1,400 on this one, even if he misses, let's say, 3-4 games potentially, you could see this number cut down underneath. I think this is an under, to be honest with you. I would fade this to the under based on how they use him, and also based upon the track record of all those names I just listed that went well over 400 carries and the next year just could not get it done. And nobody thought that Shaun Alexander wasn't going to be good in 2006, right? Everybody thought, oh, it's the league MVP. Let's take him first overall. Same thing with Saquon Barkley. We have to get out of our heads, look at the data, and say it's more likely than not that he finishes under this number.
All right, I love it. Let's continue here. This is going to be a good one because we're looking at a team that has a great offensive line and a strong defense. Talking about Denver, their primary receiver, their wide receiver one is Courtland Sutton. The regular season receiving yards over under 900 and a half. I do believe he beat that last year, minus 114. If teams double Sutton, I mean, you have Mims, you have Ingram. Talk to me about this.
You have RJ Harvey, you have a lot of guys. And Courtland Sutton, to me, is a copy and paste season. Look, he's clearly the favorite target of Bo Nix, 135 of them last year, caught 81 balls for 1,081 yards and 8 touchdowns. I think this season is easily repeatable. I think 900 is too little. I think they're factoring too much and giving too much credit to Mims, too much credit to Evan Ingram, who couldn't get on the field last year. To me, this is an opportunity not only to draft Courtland Sutton as your third or maybe even fourth wide receiver in some leagues, but also to look at a value where he is clearly the number one guy. There's no competition there for that job. And I think this is a season where he could not only basically do what he did last year, but maybe even go better because September was rough for Bo Nix. I think people forget that. So he finished as wide receiver 13 last year overall in half PPR. He's being drafted as wide receiver 22. That's a huge value. I'm over on Courtland Sutton's 900 and a half.
All right, I love it. That's a ringing endorsement, folks. Okay, let's move now to a tight end. I mentioned Ingram for Denver. Let's go now to Brock Bowers. All right, his regular season receiving yards for the coming season over under 1025 and a half. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think all of these have been over so far because I think he beat that last year as well. You'll tell me if I'm wrong. Minus 114 is the number here. What do you think?
I'm going to go over. It's a big number, but he did go over this last year as a rookie. With 1194, 5 touchdowns, and he was tight end 1. He's also playing with a far better quarterback situation, right? So Geno Smith, ironically, actually did finish as a QB1 last year. I think a lot of people don't realize that despite all of the struggles of Seattle, he still finished there. It's a huge upgrade. Brock Bowers is an incredible weapon. They don't have a lot of other competition in a wide receiver room outside of Myers. I know they drafted Jack Besh, but he is still the go-to guy in this offense along with Genti. I think there's going to be a lot here for Brock Bowers, and I would invest if you can. We'll be right back on FST. Don't go anywhere.
The Mets are a game and a half up in the wild card race from the Cincinnati Reds. But the Cincinnati Reds are 60 to 1, Joe. 60-1 to win the pennant here. But I do find myself looking at the New York Mets saying, there's too much talent on that team, and we know how things work out, even with the Philadelphia Phillies in the playoffs last year. Hey, we're a good baseball team. Mets get hot at the end of the year. Mets knock the Phillies out of the playoffs. We've seen that happen before.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Jalen Lane, fourth-round receiver from Virginia Tech, who's a dynamic slot receiver. Run after the catch. He's had a phenomenal camp. Really great offseason. He is really gifted. And obviously with McLaurin not practicing, he's getting a lot more of a look.
Right.
Now, the problem is, without McLaurin, they're not very deep at the outside receiver position. But Jalen Lane is a stud talent. I'm telling you, this kid should have gone higher.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
He's going to regress a little potentially in touchdowns, but his role's not going to change. There's no other superstar on this team besides Josh Allen. So to me, James Cook, they need James Cook if the Buffalo Bills are going to repeat in that division again. They need him to be that guy in the offense because there isn't another star around Josh Allen. So James Cook is as close as it gets. I'm sorry, it's not Khalil Shakir. It doesn't look like it's ever going to be Keon Coleman or Dalton Kincaid.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt and Joe with you here, giving you everything you need in order to dominate. All right, one thing we like to do here, we say it all the time, how smart it is. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Well, the ability to look ahead, to look at the market watch and understand where things are going and see how the numbers move to our advantage. Joe, you've made a lot of people incredibly successful with this mindset. Let's continue it for the upcoming NFL regular season MVP. And let's look at the cast of characters here. It features Lamar Jackson at the top, plus 430. There's Josh Allen right behind him, plus 600. Joe Burrow at the same number, plus 600. I'll stop there, let you start the conversation and take it wherever you'd like.
Well, a lot of this has to do with writing a story, right? We always talk about this being a media award, and last year the media said it was Josh Allen's turn to win an MVP, despite the fact one would argue Lamar Jackson's numbers were better. He threw for 4,000 yards, rushed for around 1,000, and threw for 40 touchdowns. That's a lot more touchdowns, by the way, in case you're keeping score at home, than Josh Allen had. But it didn't matter. It was Josh Allen's turn, and that's how we feel about it. And this year, I feel like it's Joe Burrow's turn. I think last year you saw a team that once again got off to a bad start. This year, they're playing their starters more in the preseason. Hopefully that bodes better for the Cincinnati Bengals at the beginning of 2025, because we always see them struggle in September. They don't play enough in the preseason, right? They almost got to the playoffs last year. They just missed out. Maybe one or two things bounced their way earlier on. We're talking about a different scenario. The defense is still bad in Cincinnati, which means Joe Burrow's going to put up incredible video game numbers. He's got T. Higgins returning along with Jamar Chase. He's got Chase Brown. He's got all the tools to put up a 5,000-yard season, have 50 touchdowns potentially. That's how good the year could be for Joe Burrow. And I don't think the Bengals are going to win the Super Bowl. I think the Ravens are going to win the Super Bowl this year. I think it's their opportunity. It's their clear path. And you don't get the Super Bowl winning team to also have NFL MVP. In fact, Matt, you want to take a guess when the last time that's happened, where the NFL MVP also happened to be the guy hosting the Lombardi Trophy over his head?
It's a Tom Brady thing. Is it a Tom Brady thing?
No.
Not even.
It's not. Even the years that Brady won, he didn't win the Super Bowl, if you could believe it. 1999. Kurt Warner, 1999. So that's a long time ago. That's 25 years ago, a quarter of a century. So if I'm going to write the narrative for the Ravens to be the winners at the end of the day, then it can't be Lamar. It was just Josh Allen. That's boring. We don't want to vote for the same guy twice, no matter how good he is. It's Joe Burrow's turn, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to stick with that narrative. And you might think it's kind of stupid. No, it's not. No, it's not, because I just presented you a cogent argument where all these pieces fit the puzzle. So if you want to hear it, hear me at plus 600. That's the guy to invest in this year.
Love it. Put a pin in it, man, and not in the way they say we'll come back to it. Like, just stick it up there and put it on the wall. So many different, what are those called? Colloquialisms, turns of phrases, something to that effect. All right, let's go to the NFL. What is it, a colloquialism? Okay, an NFL offensive rookie of the year, the Roadie. Colloquiuisim. Okay. I think if I spell it really fast and do some mumble rap stuff, that you'll just be like, that's not it right. He's supposed to be smart. All right, NFL Arodi, offensive rookie of the year. Let's stay with just straight Elizabethan English if we shall. Ashton Jonty, hard to tackle at plus 250. Will he be the rookie of the year? Cam Ward, plus 300. Joe, we can talk about, should it go to a quarterback or a running back? Omarion Hampton is there. You talked about his versatility for a team that has a great offensive line. So, and then Travis Hunter, maybe we throw him into the first start of the conversation, a two-way player, but what kind of damage does that do to your frame? He's at plus 900. Take the conversation away. What do you think?
Look, although it's very cool that Hunter's playing both sides of the football, it really worries me, and I've made that very clear when we were at NFL draft season and here on the show. I think it is Ashton Genty's to lose because I think he's going to get a ton of volume, and you see Vegas is telling you it's his to lose. Now, Cam Ward is more interesting than people think. If Cam Ward can somehow get this Titans team back in it and win this division, which is a winnable division, it'll be fascinating on the 3-1. I think Genty and Ward are the guys that you really look for and say, okay, it does go to the quarterback quite a bit. If Genty is right there with Cam Ward and, which of these teams are in the playoffs, I don't know. I mean, I think you're probably looking more likely that Cam Ward has an open path than you're looking at the Raiders, considering the division that they play in. But then it's really interesting when you see Travion Henderson, who has this huge explosiveness, and Ted McMillan, who could have a Brian Thomas Jr. kind of season. I think what you do here is you pick Genty and you go in hard on him, and then you sprinkle a little bit on McMillan and Henderson just in case those guys really have spectacular rookie seasons, or God forbid something happens to Genty. But this is kind of wide open. Last year we nailed this, by the way. It was Jaden Daniels at plus 700. Remember, Caleb Williams was the default guy at the top. Yeah, sometimes that's right. Sometimes it's wrong. I think Genty at the top as the default is actually correct. We come back. We're going to continue the conversation on SportsGrid. Don't go anywhere.
The Mets are a game and a half up in the wild card race from the Cincinnati Reds. But the Cincinnati Reds are 16 to 1, Joe. 60 to 1 to win the pennant here. But I do find myself looking at the New York Mets saying, there's too much talent on that team, and we know how things work out, even with the Philadelphia Phillies in the playoffs last year. Hey, we're a good baseball team. Mets get hot at the end of the year. Mets knock the Phillies out of the playoffs. We've seen that happen before.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Jalen Lane, fourth-round receiver from Virginia Tech, who's a dynamic slot receiver. Run after the catch. He's had a phenomenal camp. Really great offseason. He is really gifted. And obviously with McLaurin not practicing, he's getting a lot more of a look. Right. Now, the problem is, without McLaurin, they're not very deep at the outside receiver position. But Jalen Lane is a stud talent. I'm telling you, this kid should have gone higher.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
He's going to regress a little potentially in touchdowns, but his role's not going to change. There's no other superstar on this team besides Josh Allen. So to me, James Cook, they need James Cook if the Buffalo Bills are going to repeat in that division again. They need him to be that guy in the offense because there isn't another star around Josh Allen. So James Cook is as close as it gets. I'm sorry. It's not Khalil Shakir. It doesn't look like it's ever going to be Keon Coleman or Dalton Kincaid.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports today. Matt and Joe with you here, giving you everything you need. The reminder, of course, on social media, at SportsGrid TV. We bring in Joey P, and not because it rhymes, but this is usually a segment that gets a lot of traffic on social media. It's called Would You Rather? And I think now more than ever, it's incredibly important because people are having questions. Preseason is showing a lot of things. We've discussed the illusions of August. So let's do a little Would You Rather with Joey P, the author of the Fantasy Black Book. And let's go to the wide receiver position. ADP of 50, wide receiver 23 is Rashee Rice. Or ADP 53, wide receiver 24 is Devonta Smith from Philadelphia. It's a great offense. For me, it's Smith. But, Joe, the people want to hear from you.
Yeah, look, I don't get this. I'm like Tom Hanks in the movie Big, where he raises his hand and says, I don't get it. I don't get it.
It makes that guy so mad.
What's supposed to be fun? It's a building that turns into a robot. Well, what's fun about playing with a building? And I say, what's fun about playing with a wide receiver in fantasy football that's not going to be there for 4-6 weeks? And I know Rashee Rice plays with Mahomes, and I know they're going to throw the ball more. I get all these things, and I get that we saw Rashee Rice towards the end 2 years ago of a season where he looked like he was emerging as the go-to guy in that offense. And that's all great. It's fine. It's dandy. But I can't get over the suspension, and I can't get over the ADP. I think you're going to see this drop from wide receiver 23 to more like wide receiver 36 by the time we get to Labor Day. I do believe that's going to be the case. But for now, these guys are right next to each other. I'll take Devonta Smith, who is a little bit more vanilla, a little bit more boring, a little bit more floor. But that's fine, right? Like, I don't need the ceiling every week for my, potentially third wide receiver. What I need from him is steady productivity, or I need the big, like, Jameson Williams boom or bust kind of guy, depending on how I'm building my roster out. So those are the two formats of wide receiver 3 that I kind of look for. These guys are both going right on the fringe of wide receiver 3, but I think Rice's ADP is going to fall dramatically in drafts after this week. So we'll see how it goes, but give me Devonta Smith here. Do you agree or disagree?
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, you use the terms boring and vanilla. I mean, to me, a lot of times, water is the best choice. I say it to my kids. I say it to myself. So, I mean, at the end of the day, what do you want? You want the points. All right, let's move on here. Maybe this is a bit more of an enticing conversation than an ADP of 55 for RB21 of RJ Harvey, right? And he's going to have some contenders. Dobbins will contend against him. And then ADP 56 is Travion Henderson, RB22. He'll have Ramondre Stevenson. The Pats seem to like the multi-syllabic running back names. Travion Henderson or RJ Harvey. I think at the end of the day, Henderson has more explosivity. Harvey has a better offensive line and a better overall offensive ecosystem. But let's hear from you.
RJ, JK, Broncos in 12. No, give me no. Look, let's talk about these two guys because I want both of them. Can I have both? I'd love to have both these running backs.
No, not for this segment. It's called Would You Rather, so it implies one or the other.
I set these parameters, and then I fail.
You must live by them. Hoisted by your own petard.
The worst. Well, here's the thing. The good news is that both of these guys are floating around RB20. And that's really good news for those people who are like me, who like to have those big wide receiver builds, because I think both of these guys are ones that can help lead your backfield. You're going to get them as RB2s, but I think they're going to perform like RB1s most of the time. Now, I think Henderson's workload will be more eaten into potentially by Ramondre Stevenson, but all the explosiveness comes from Henderson catching the football, Henderson having big touchdowns. You see the speed, you see everything out there. I think by season's end, it's going to be more Henderson. However, I think out of the gate, it's going to be more RJ Harvey. So keep that in mind too. And I think J.K. Dobbins is there to take 100 carries off of R.J. Harvey, not the other way around. So I will take R.J. Harvey because I think right out of the chute, he is that guy in this offense that they drafted, that they went after, that they were going to be that focal point, and Sean Payton's going to run that. But man, oh man, if you get either of these guys, you're okay. I'll take Harvey for now, but my heart is sad. It breaks for not taking Travion Henderson.
Now, you know what they say about your heart, it will go on. That was a great segment. That was great dynamite insight by you. Let's continue. Did I get an from you? Really? Oh, okay.
Well,
ADP 58 for wide receiver.
Before 10 a.m. I mean, geez.
Hey, come on. She is going through some things, and I think we should all stand for Celine. Hashtag We'll get that trending on our SportsGrid platforms. Okay, ADP of 58, wide receiver 25 is Reciever. We were talking about the Rashee Rice. Now you can pivot over to Reciever. Or ADP 60, wide receiver 26 is Zay Flowers. And I'm all in on Zay Flowers. I do believe that teams will be focusing more on the run. I think Mark Andrews is going to respond, but I think Flowers is going to be a big part of that offense. But Joe, let's hear from you.
Yeah, I think my answer might surprise people because I think Xavier Worthy is the trendy name right now that people want to take. I'm going to take Zay Flowers here. And the reason is I already know what he is. I know what his role in the offense is. If anything, it maybe gets a little bit better. He's a terrific player, terrific preparer. Xavier Worthy is explosive. He's got incredible speed. But it's funny, for all that speed, he doesn't create a lot of separation because he's not the greatest route runner in the world. So that's kind of the oddity. Like, he could just beat your second corner, right? Just flat out beat him. And you've seen that. You saw it on the field last year. But it doesn't necessarily create as good a separation. That's what Zay Flowers does so well. So I also don't know when Rashee Rice returns, how that looks with Xavier Worthy, because when we saw Xavier Worthy, it was without Rashee Rice, and we've never seen them all on the field together. And that's a lot of ifs for me. And that's too many ifs. And I'd rather just take the guy who I know what he is, and I know maybe what his limitations are in this offense and the way it operates. But I think I feel much better and more confident in Zay Flowers running him out there every week than the unknown of Xavier Worthy, and also how that might change over the course of the season when Rice returns. And who knows, even if he's not there, does Worthy continue to show us what he showed us at the end of 2024? It's a lot of ifs, too many ifs for me. Give me Zay Flowers.
All right, I love it. Let's keep the ball moving here. Let's talk tight ends. ADP 63, tight end 5 is TJ Hawkinson on the Minnesota Vikings. ADP of 65, tight end 6 is some guy named Travis Kelce from Kansas City. I like Hawkinson. But all kidding aside, I do like Hawkinson. I just think there's more upside here. I think Kelce is like a setting sun. But Joe, talk to me.
He's a setting sun that's going into the Hall of Fame, and he's an all-time great tight end. He's one of the greats ever. And look, last year he did have 97 catches, and the problem is he only had 3 touchdowns, and his touchdowns have declined 2 straight years from 12 to 5 to 3. The receptions are still there, so in PPR leagues, I think you could still make the case for Kelce. But I'm where you are. I think one arrow is pointing down. I think the other is pointing up. And J.J. McCarthy is a rookie QB. And what do they like to do, Matt? They like to check down to the tight end. It's just the nature of the beast. We've seen it time and time again. This is what happens a lot of the time. So T.J. Hawkinson, last year, injury. He's had some injury questions in the past. That's understandable. It's a problem. But he did have 95 receptions in 2023 with Minnesota. So that was tight end 4. I think there's a better chance he finishes as a top 5 tight end than Kelce this year.
All right, I like it. Let's go back to the running back position. We'll go around ADP 66 for running back 26, and it's Aaron Jones. Adding the senior to his name just makes him feel old. Or ADP 68 is Tony Pollard, who's RB 27. Now, Joe, for me, the injury to Spears, we talked about it, puts a clear path for Pollard, whereas I believe Jordan Mason is starting to make some buzz around Aaron Jones. So talk to me.
Look, Aaron Jones is always the guy that you say, well, I can't do it again, and then he does it again. And I've had great respect for Aaron Jones. He was always a big target of mine when he played in Green Bay. And even when he moved to Minnesota in recent years, you were just getting a discount on him. But he does strike me as one of these RBs that after the 5-6 years of being the guy, that he's going to show you that wear and tear on the tires. And Jordan Mason was brought in for a reason. And he showed you like he can carry a full workload. And you're already hearing buzz out of camp that it's going to be more of a 1A, 1B situation, like a 60-40 kind of split. I don't love that. Now, Tajay Spears, that was also kind of the plan for the Tennessee Titans, but Spears is hurt right now, and he's going to be working behind everybody else. And guess who has 3 straight years of 1,000 yards rushing? And nobody seems to care but me. It's Tony Pollard. He's being drafted. How many guys with 3 straight years of 1,000 yards rushing are going outside the top 24 running backs? Not many. So Tony Pollard, to me, is one of these guys that I think gets overlooked. Again, if you have early big wide receiver build rosters, Tony Pollard's going to be sitting there. RJ Harvey, Travion Henderson, even Aaron Jones, right? Jordan Mason. These are the names you're going to have to go after. I would take Pollard, and I think the Cam Ward upgrade is going to be significant, and that's going to help Tony Pollard in the touchdown department too, just more opportunities. So when we return, we're going to focus our attentions to the wide receivers, our targets, our values, everything you need to know in 2025. Don't go anywhere.
Mets are a game and a half up in the wild card race from the Cincinnati Reds. But the Cincinnati Reds are 16 to 1, Joe. 60 to 1 to win the pennant here. But I do find myself looking at the New York Mets saying, there's too much talent on that team, and we know how things work out, even with the Philadelphia Phillies in the playoffs last year. Hey, we're a good baseball team. Mets get hot at the end of the year. Mets knock the Phillies out of the playoffs. We've seen that happen before.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Jalen Lane, fourth-round receiver from Virginia Tech, who's a dynamic slot receiver. Run after the catch. He's had a phenomenal camp. Really great offseason. He is really gifted, and obviously with McLaurin not practicing, he's getting a lot more of a look.
Right.
Now, the problem is, without McLaurin, they're not very deep at the outside receiver position, but Jalen Lane is a stud talent. I'm telling you, this kid should have gone higher.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
He's going to regress a little potentially in touchdowns, but his role's not going to change. There's no other superstar on this team besides Josh Allen. So to me, James Cook, they need James Cook if the Buffalo Bills are going to repeat in that division again. They need him to be that guy in the offense because there isn't another star around Josh Allen. So James Cook is as close as it gets. I'm sorry, it's not Khalil Shakir. It doesn't look like it's ever going to be Keon Coleman or Dalton Kincaid.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt Striker and Joe Pisapia with you here. TD Jake behind the glass steering the ship. This is where the show gets fun. Sam Y, the sports guy, is our producer, but he has gone on because more great programming is coming up right after this show, so we get the joy of Jake. That should be a show. Folks, if we can make a show, it's the joy of Jake. All right, Joey P and the joy of Joe. Let's look at some wide receiver targets, and let's break it down because we did this last week for the running backs. Got such a great response on social media. Please go check it out wherever you can find it and it lives. We'll break them down into the elite, the values, the hidden gems, and the wild cards. Well done for a football show. Let's go to the wide receivers. The elites are the obvious here. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Malik Neighbors. Now, if teams double Malik Neighbors, that giant offensive line is not going to give whomever's in that pocket time. Let's start there. Can we argue about Malik Neighbors? Why? Why is he an elite?
Sure. We can argue about that. Also, let's be honest, Sam left because you shamed him for not being able to spell colloquialism, which is a tough word to spell. So I no shame from me on you, Sam. Yeah, look, Malik Neighbors is an extraordinary talent. In points per game last year, he was one of the leaders at wide receiver. And there was nobody there last year and nobody throwing the football. The QB upgrade is significant, right? And look, you did see Wan'Dale Robinson have a bunch of catches last year because of what you're talking about, right? Sometimes you're going to just double Neighbors. But I do believe at the end of the day, Neighbors is one of these just special talents. And I do think that with this improved quarterback situation, we can all, throw our jabs at Winston and Russell Wilson and, Jackson Dart's going to be a work in progress, but it's still better than anything they had last year. Tommy DeVito and, Daniel Jones and whatever else they were running. I mean, it was a joke last year what they had in that quarterback room. Now they've got some experience and they've got some upside. So I think that's a good situation. Amon-Ra St. Brown's still a guy that is just right as rain. You know exactly what you're getting out of him, I think, every year. I know Jameson Williams is there too now, and he kind of popped last year, but Amon-Ra is still the go-to guy for me. CeeDee Lamb, I think a healthy Dak Prescott goes a long way. And you want to talk about the importance of adding another guy on the other side? George Pickens really is going to make defenses have to figure things out there. They don't have a great running game. They're going to have Pickens on one side, Lamb on the other. Choose your poison. I think that's great for CeeDee Lamb. Justin Jefferson, again, being undervalued, and nobody learned the lesson last year. It was undervalued. Why? Because Cousins was gone and Sam Darnold was there, and nobody thought it could be good. And now Sam Darnold is gone, and somehow we think it can't be good because Sam Darnold's gone? Did I miss the memo here? What's going on? So, look, he's going to be fine. J.J. McCarthy might be a little slow out of the gate in September because he hasn't played football in a year, but he's been in this system for more than a year, and I think that's going to be fine. And then, look, Jamar Chase, at the top of the board. But a lot of people ask me the question about who do I take at 1? And my answer is this. 12-team, 3 wide receiver, you take Jamar Chase. In a 10-team league, though, where you have only 2 wide receivers to start, it's an interesting supply and demand situation with a roster like that. That is where the Bijan number 1 overall maybe comes into play, because you could take Bijan and then turn around. You're still getting 2 number 1 wide receivers in a 10-team league draft where you only start 2 of them. So just keep that in mind, depending on the league you're in, when you take Chase 1, which is most of the time, and then the circumstance, even in a half PPR in a 10-team league, where Bijan becomes a little bit more interesting as that number 1 overall guy.
All right, I like it. Let's move now into the values. I believe at this point, as well as some of the hidden gems, it's where you're going to win or lose your drafts, essentially. I mean, everyone knows their first few picks, but when you get into the middle and late rounds, you really have to be savvy. Joe, the values here are guys like Tyreek Hill, who people think will drop, and I think that's happened to you. It drops just right in your lap. Garrett Wilson, I posed the same question I posed for the Malik Neighbors and the offensive ecosystem there. Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, you have the Stafford question, and then there's Cortland Sutton that round out the values. Talk.
Well, I told you before, Cortland Sutton being drafted as wide receiver 22, 23, and he was wide receiver 13 last year, and I just don't see his projections changing. I don't see him being worse in year 2 with Bo Nix after a terrible September. Evan Ingram is a nice addition. RJ Harvey's a nice addition. All this is going to do is improve the offense, and I think Cortland Sutton's going to be a copy and paste guy. Devontae Adams, now, this is one that's tenuous because of the Stafford help, so we have to keep a close eye on that one. Mike Evans, you're getting that value because everyone just goes, well, one of these years it's not going to be for Mike Evans. Well, you let me know what year that is, because I'm tired of trying to predict when the end of Mike Evans is happening, because it doesn't seem to be ever. It's never happening. He's like Cher. He's just never going to go away. He's always going to be out there on tour all the time. Garrett Wilson,
now I'm picturing Mike Evans in that outfit she wore in that one video. Never mind.
Mike Evans turn back time every single season. He turns it back. Garrett Wilson, another one where you look at and you say, oh, people don't like him because Justin Fields. I'm like, look, he played together in Ohio State. Give the kid some time in the new offense. People are making fun of Justin Fields. Let's pump the brakes with that. Tyreek Hill, I got in the 4th round of a draft yesterday. If you're going to give me Tyreek Hill in the 4th round of a draft, I'm just going to take him every time. It's just absurd where he's falling, and I think it's just a huge value you can't pass up.
All right. I like it. And it makes sense. At the end of the day, I think people need to do that. Just kind of fade the noise and just make sense of the numbers and the information. We live in an information age. All right. The hidden gems now. Because we live in an information age, I think this term is kind of strange. How can they be hidden if we have all the information? Well, Joe, you're the guy here. Tet McMillan, Jameson Williams, you talk about his big playability. George Pickens, you talk about what he'll do for CeeDee Lamb as well as that Cowboys offense. And then Calvin Ridley. I want to start there because you've been talking about Cam Ward and we've been talking about Tony Pollard, and then we start to look at Tennessee's depth chart and we recognize a lot of names. Could this team be fantasy viable?
They could be. I think Cam Ward's a very serious young man, and I don't remember a time where we talked less about a number 1 overall QB than Cam Ward. I just nobody seems to talk. We're also talking about Caleb Williams, and we're all still talking what are we doing here? Cam Ward was the number 1 overall pick for a reason. Really serious kid, really hard worker, really focused. I think he's going to do a lot of good things. Here's the irony with this group. They're going all in a row, 27, 28, 29, and 30 at wide receiver. All of these guys have a huge fantasy upside. They're all being drafted as wide receiver 3s, and I think all of them are going to outperform that ADP. Calvin Ridley could end up as a low-end 1, high-end 2. George Pickens, I think, is going to end up being a solid back-end wide receiver 2 at the end of the day. Jameson Williams has the upside for probably high-end 2, and Tet McMillan could be a low-end 1. You could see a Tet McMillan season that looks a lot like BTJ of last year, where it came out of nowhere. He's the alpha dog. He's the best wide receiver in the room, a good offense with a quarterback who's starting to get it, and I think that's a huge thing there. So all these wide receivers, if you're an early RB drafter, this group is where you make up the ground. When we come back, we're going to continue talking about wide receivers, the wild cards. Who are they? We'll tell you the name.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
He is not Derrick Henry. He is not one of those special backs in that sense. A really good one that's been outstanding in fantasy for quite some time. But you can also hear the buzz recently about it being more of a split backfield. And if that's so, then Aaron Jones' value takes a hit, Jordan Mason's value goes up, and there's an opportunity at some point, if Aaron Jones misses time, where you can see Jordan Mason take that backfield over.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
It's a safe shot, pin high left with a 6-iron. And then this is where JJ enters the fray again and hits this like slice 5-iron. That was just, I mean, it curved probably a good, 30, 40 feet, almost flies in the hole. And it was just a crazy shot because nobody would ever really try to hit that type of slider.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
An HRR, parlay a combo that you want to do. I generally prefer away teams and players that hit at the top of the lineup or in the top half, just because you are guaranteed just that extra plate appearance here or there. How many times, throughout the season, I've been like, listen, if this guy gets on, he will have one more at bat in the 9th inning. And if he doesn't get there, there. If you just take them that place higher, they're going to be in a spot to cash that day.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt Striker and Joe Pisapia with you here. Stick around. We'll be talking some baseball coming up on the turn of the hour. A bunch of great guys will be out there helping you win some money. There's a lot of money being left on the table over in baseball. A lot of people and sharps have gone on to football, so be smart and stick around for that one. Joey P, we got a great response on our social medias at SportsGrid, at SportsGrid TV, classifying the wide receivers. People are clamoring for the wild card. So with this time, let's talk maybe, you got 5? Give me 5 wide receivers that are wild cards for you, for people heading into their drafts.
Well, I'm going to start with Stephon Diggs, who looks spectacular in camp, and I think is way ahead of schedule. I don't care what anybody's telling me. He's going to play week 1. He looks really sharp out of the breaks. He looks really good on the cuts. He's not showing any signs of being slow. He is dusting some good corners, by the way. The Patriots have some good corners that he's working against, all right? Christian Gonzalez is really good. He looks terrific. And that's going to be a huge win for Drake May. And his ADP right now is so suppressed. He's being drafted still as wide receiver 39. I mean, that's crazy. He's going to be a number 2 probably when all said and done in terms of fantasy productivity this year. Ricky Pearsall, I think another guy in the 40s, right? A wide receiver. I want on my team. Why? He's the healthiest, and he's the guy working right now with Brock Purdy, and he showed you a little taste last year. And they did spend draft capital 2 years ago on him to be an emerging wide receiver. It's a really good schedule they've got, especially early on to open the year. I really like potentially Ricky Pearsall being a guy that can jump a tier. Emeka Egbuka, we talked about Godwin's health. He's going to get a lot of work early in the year, and I think that's going to keep him around in this offense in some fashion, even when eventually Chris Godwin returns. Demario Douglas, a.k.a. Pop, he's working that slot right now for the New England Patriots, and that role we know is historically very productive in a Josh McDaniels offense. Efton Chisholm is also really fun. He's the scrappy little hustle guy, the Welker / Julian Edelman mode, but I think he's got to get through Douglas first, and I don't think that's going to be this year, but keep an eye on that in deeper leagues. And then Josh Palmer, finally, another one too, where I wasn't buying into this originally, but it's so cheap that I think it's worth a shot. If it doesn't work out, you could drop him and move on to somebody else. But Josh Palmer has the upside of being the go-to wide receiver. And in the Bills offense, they really don't have one. Keon Coleman was disappointing as a rookie. We'll see what he can do in year 2. Khalil Shakir is nice but limited. So Josh Palmer, I think, has a lot more upside, and you've seen early on him really starting to connect You're watching the Hard Knocks episodes, you see him and Josh Allen really starting to try to create a relationship together. People say that stuff's overrated. It's not. Cooper Kupp kind of came out of nowhere for people. He was having breakfast with Matthew Stafford every day, right? And next thing you know, they get on the field and some of those conversations start to translate. And I think that's very important to pay attention to. It's how you can get an edge. And to me, Palmer is one of those guys where it costs you nothing to find out, and the rewards could be huge.
I love it. Okay, now it is time for the beloved 3 and Out. These are 3 things that Joey P is looking forward to this week. And then when we return next week, God willing, we all live and be well, we'll discuss these things and try to make some money off of them. Joe, what do you got?
Well, first off, the Jaguars running back situation. Liam Cohen offenses typically want to go with the guy who's catching the football. I still say that's Travis Etienne. I know Bashal Tootin is fun. He's speedy. I know Tank Bigsby kind of has his role, but Bigsby, I think, is limited in what he can bring to the table. Etienne was RB3 2 years ago. I got him in the 10th round of a draft the other day. And I don't understand, once again, the hate going so far in the other direction. He was injured most of the year. I think Etienne is going to be a really interesting guy. Let's see how it plays out tonight, too, in these games. The Bears' offensive line and offense just in general, I know they're trying to throw the kitchen sink at Caleb Williams. I don't think he's built for it. And you and I talked about it last year during draft season. And I looked kind of prophetic last year during the year. I think Ben Johnson is going to see what he can get out of him. But I just think Caleb Williams, at the end of the day, I don't know if he's got the mental toughness for this version of what football is when you get to the NFL level. I think it takes the mental toughness of the thing that Jane Daniels has and Cam Ward has. And that was my big concern for Caleb Williams. He was always the best, and he always just relied on his talent at every single level and always got him by. And when it didn't, he went somewhere else and brought his talent somewhere else. Can't really do that in the NFL for very long. That's what NFL stands for, right? Not for long. We'll see how it goes for Caleb Williams. I'm wishing him the best, but I'm still very skeptical. And then the New Orleans quarterback situation. I think Tyler Shuck looks the best, certainly better than Spencer Rattler, but time will tell. It's also an offense I want to run away from in fantasy outside of Alvin Kamara. I don't see a lot of values or a lot of interesting pieces. So that's what I'm looking at today. We've got more football tonight, really exciting times. We've got more sports here on SportsGrid all day long for you to wager on and have some good times. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Matt Striker, I'm Joey P. We want you all to have a great Sunday. Thanks for hanging out with us, and make sure you tune in for our draft special that's coming up this week. Very exciting times. We're going to have a mock draft here with Craig Mish, George Kurtz, myself, and Matt Striker. Don't miss it. Stay on the grid.
We don't care where you were drafted. You outperformed somebody, you're going to be on that football field. Now, again, there are extenuating circumstances where you draft a quarterback number 3 overall. Yeah, they're going to try him out for the next 3 to 4 years, even if he's not as good as anybody on that roster. But from Shador's perspective, that's probably the case. Tyler Huntley, Shador Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of names on that list, not a lot of good names on that list, so he can earn a job on this football team.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's becoming just harder in general to do business from a money standpoint in general, let alone the competition. So yeah, Betfred closing up shop will be gone by tomorrow. We'll see if any sportsbook fills this void. It'll mean that there's a license up for grabs in Pennsylvania, which is one of the biggest states for sports betting and is home to a lot of other operators. At this point, we're getting to a time when no one's rushing into the market.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I was that confused trying to figure out why Cameron Young isn't as good as he should be, because we've seen all the flashes. Like at some point of his career, he's been elite at something. Like he's been elite at putting this year. He's been an elite iron player. He's been an elite driver of the golf ball. So check out this chart I had to get.
We got a chart.
Look at this chart that I had to come up with.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.